Video we're going to talk about modifying graphic frames, and the process of modifying graphic frames is very similar to the process of modifying a text frame. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place an image on this page. So I'm going to go Command D, of course. All right, and I'm going to go and place an image on this page. So I'm going to use my handy dandy little Chevrolet Camaro. All right, and this time I'm just going to drag and drop. All right, so now as you can see, when I drag and drop, I can decide how big this image and the subsequent frame is going to be. So once again, what we can do is when you're in the selection tool, you have the frame and the content selected. But now we're going to modify the frame, but the content is going to remain as it is. So let's say, for example, the first thing I can do is I can go to Object. I can drop down to where it says Convert Shape, and then I can say, in this case, I'll say, let's see, I'll say polygon. All right, and in this case, I have a triangle. So now I have this in a triangle shape. I can also say, I can say ellipse. All right, and you guys can play with it, and you can use any shape that you want. All right, so that's one way that you can modify the shape of a frame, of a graphic frame. But the other way, which is actually where you have a whole lot of control over, is we're going to bring this thing back to the rectangle. So we come over here, it says Convert Shape, make that a rectangle. And again, it comes down to the pen tool. So let's say, for example, we come over here to the pen tool. All right. Now, once we come up, we tap on the pen tool. What we're going to do is we're going to start adding anchor points. So let's say, for example, I'm in the pen tool. I'm going to have the anchor point option. I'll click an anchor point here. I'll click an anchor point here. And then I'll click another anchor point over here. And then what I could do is, when I go to the Convert Direction tool in the pen tool, one of the submenus, I click and drag on that anchor point, and as you can see, I've just made it a curved. I put a Bezier curve in there, and I can do the same thing on all of these right here. So I'm putting this Bezier curve. So now I can, make that, and I can even put a Bezier curve on the corner, the original corner that was there. So I have this interesting shape right now. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the image, all right, and I'm going to scale it up. If you notice now, you're going to see there's this blue line, and the blue line represents the actual frame, but the orange line represents the image inside the frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the image on the inside. I'm going to put my finger on the Option key and then the Shift key, and I'm going to just scale it up so that it fits completely inside of the shape that I just created. So now you can see, and we're going to talk more about your fitting options in InDesign in a future video. But that's how we can quickly modify shapes in InDesign. In this video, we're going to talk about your fitting options as far as how a graphic should fit inside of a frame. So right now I'm going to select the graphic frame tool, and you'll know which one that is because it has the little X in it. So let's say, for example, I make an arbitrary size frame right here in the middle of the page. Now I'm going to go to Command D, which of course is place, navigate my way to my image. I'll open that up. All right, and as you can see, by default, it comes in at actual size. So when I am in the selection tool, or the direct selection tool, if I just click and keep my finger on it, you'll actually see the entire image, and you'll see what is inside the frame but is not visible. All right, so that's the entire image inside of this frame. Well, the first option is I go up to Object, I'll drop down to Fitting, and then I can say Fit Content Proportionally. All right, and at that point, what it's going to do is going to look at the height and the width, and it's going to get this image to fit in proportionately. Okay, now, the other way of doing this, which I do not recommend, and this is something that a lot of novices do, they're going to come down to the fitting option, and then they'll say something like, fill, let me see, fit content to frame. That's it, fit content to frame. So when you do that, look at what it's doing. It's stretching it. Basically, it's going to say, all right, it's going to fit it to the height and the width together, so it's not proportionate. So that's an option that I say you should never really do. But then there's some other options here that let's take a look at. You can say, all right, let's go down to fitting. All right, we could say fill frame proportionately. All right, then that means that what it's going to do is it's going to actually look at the total width, because before it took the whole image and it fitted in the frame. But when we said fill frame, well, it's going to look at whether it's the height of the width, because it's basically going to fill the whole thing proportionately so that there's no white of the frame showing. All right, and then of course, lastly, what we have is we have an option that says, okay, fit frame to content. And basically what that's going to do is no matter what size, no matter what size the frame was when we brought it in, it's going to expand the frame so that it fits the image. So before the frame was that size, but when we say fit fit frame proportionally, like fit the frame to the content, it actually opened up the frame to fit the content. And then a keyboard command for that would be much like we did in using the text example. If you use Option Command and the letter C, or Alt Control and letter C if you're on the PC, it will open or collapse the frame to fit the content. All right, so that's how we deal with fitting content in InDesign. Okay, manually resizing an image inside of InDesign is really pretty simple. Basically, you can be in either one of the two tools, whether it's the selection tool or the direct selection tool. Either one doesn't make a difference. If you're in the selection tool, you will do a mouse over it and you'll see the donut or the content grabber. If you're in the direct selection tool, it's going to grab the content by default. And you can always tell when you have the content selected because it's a different color. So let's say, for example, things that you can do is you can grab it. I like to grab it by the lower right-hand corner. By putting my finger on the Shift key, click, shift, and drag, you can see I can scale it proportionately going out from left to right. All right. If I put my cursor in the upper, let's say right-hand corner, put my finger on the Shift key, click and drag, you can see that it's doing it going from the lower left-hand corner to right and left, up and down. All right, and I'm putting my finger on the Shift key to constrain proportions. Now, if I put my finger, let's say for example, and I like to scale from the lower right-hand side. So I grab it from the lower right-hand corner, I put my finger on the Option, click Shift and drag from the Option and the Shift key, and it scales it from the center. Shift, Option, the Shift key will constrain proportion, and the Option key will scale it from the center. So that's basically how you can scale imagery within a frame manually. Okay, in this video we're going to place multiple images on a page at one time, and this is pretty easy. What we're going to do right now is we're going to do our Command D option, which is place, all right, and we're going to put in all 8 of these images all of them in a grid form at one time. So what I'm going to do is, and you guys can, if you have multiple images, you just click and drag. So you just click right outside. Don't double click because you don't want to open them up. Just click and drag so you have them all highlighted and you can say open. Once you've done that, and you can see I have, if you look very closely, you'll see the number 8 in the loaded gun, or the loaded pointer as I call it. And that lets you know that there are 8 images waiting to be placed. So at this point, what you do is you put your finger on the Shift and the Command key, or the Shift and Control key if you're on the PC, and you'll see this little grid icon. Okay, at that point, what you can do is, I'm going to do this by placing my pointer in the upper left-hand corner, click and drag while I still have my fingers on the Shift and the Command key. All right. Now at this point, I'm going to take my 2 fingers off of those 2 modifier keys, but I keep my finger on the mouse. Very, very important. Now it just so happens that I have 8 frames, but let's say I wanted to change it to maybe 6 frames. Maybe I just want 6 images in there. So what I could do is, I'm going to, as I still have my finger on the mouse key, I click on the arrow down, and that gives me 6 frames. And if I click on the arrow to the left, that'll give me 3 columns and 3 rows, which will give 9 frames. So basically, let's bring it back to where it was. We're going to make it 2 columns and 4 rows. All right, that would yield 8. I'm going to release from I'm going to release the mouse, and if you notice, all the images are placed in the frames. And when we use the fitting option, while they're still all selected, we'll go up to Object, drop down to Fitting, and we can say Fill Frame Proportionally. Because if you notice, some of them, they're all different sizes, but now we want to make sure all of it fits into the frame. So say Fill Frame Proportionally. We click this, and bing, all of them are now fitting comfortably inside the frame. If we preview this, the frames are all the same size, the images are in there are no light leaks, everything looks good. So that's how you can place multiple images in a grid in InDesign at one time.